Hello, my name is Steve and I'm going to talk to you about nothing and everything. I'm going to start from really before the beginning. So before the beginning there was nothing, absolutely nothing, and it's a nothing with no size and no time. No time is most important. It's really impossible for us to understand, to get our head around no time at all. Then along came something came out of the nothing, and that nothing initially was light, and light is both particles and waves, which is all to do with quantum stuff, which you don't need to know about. The particles are things like quarks and the Higgs boson, and they got together to make atoms, and the first atom that was made was hydrogen. Then gravity, which pulls together anything with mass, pulled hydrogen atoms together until there was enough for the center of the this mass to be so hot and so pressurized that it started a process called fusion, and that is a star. So we now have a star which has fusion going on inside of it, and what fusion does, it puts allows molecules to join together, connected by the forces of the electrons. Then after a while the atoms can get together and form molecules, and initially we have just hydrogen molecules. Then as heavier and heavier molecules are created, they get bigger and bigger until the biggest is one we call DNA, which is what life really is based on. So DNA is a big molecule, and if it's stretched out, it's something like 12 feet long, but tiny, and it's so small that we can only just see it using an electron microscope. Then came the beginning of life, and the way that happened is a group of molecules, including DNA, got together and somehow or other formed a skin around themselves, a semi-permeable, so things could go in and out, and it did all the things that life has to do, like find things to eat, reproduce, expel waste products, and so on. So now we have molecules, and molecules can reproduce and make more of themselves, and just occasionally there are errors made in the DNA when they reproduce. So the next next cell which is made is slightly different from its parent. Then came sexual reproduction. So you needed a male and a female to make new cells. Then we have multicell organisms, which are like the very basic creatures we have around now. They again grew, developed, and moved to being very small creatures on the seabed, plants, seaweed, and various creatures. This I want to show you is a trilobite, which I hope you can see. Maybe I'll bring it a bit closer if I get it in the right place. Okay, trilobite is a creature which is very like a woodlouse, and can be a couple of inches small up to around a foot. Huge they can be. So life develops, different creatures, and then at some point some creatures crawl onto the land and become land creatures, and some are plants, trees and flowers, and so on. So we now have creatures all over the place, including giant ones like the blue whale, and tiny things like viruses and bacteria. So life continues to develop until about 40,000 years ago, when humans first developed. The first fossil that we have of a female human, they called Lucy, and she was arrived in Africa, northeast Africa, and that is, the birthplace of man, and it's from there that man spread all over the world. So we now have man who develops, his brain gets bigger, he creates tools to catch his prey with, his food, and does odd things like cave paintings and carvings, and we don't really know what they meant. Probably some ritual thing, maybe it's to increase their chances of catching whatever it is they did drawings of, so deer or bison or whatever it was. Until eventually we get to modern man with his larger brain, and man is a creature with a skeleton, various internal organs, liver, kidneys, heart, things like that. And he then creates civilizations with cities and so on, and goes on and on developing, and now spreading all over the world. So man ends up almost everywhere, so in North, South America, Europe, and gets out eventually to the Far East, and Australia, and then New Zealand. So man now spread all over the world. And then comes a change. Man develops what we call consciousness, that is, being able to think of oneself and think of one's own thoughts and actions. I'm just going to quote something for you. This is from the introduction to a book by Julian Jaynes. So this is the quote. "Oh, what a world of unseen visions and heard silences, this insubstantial country of the mind. What ineffable essences these touchless rememberings and showable reveries, and the privacy of it all, a secret theatre of speechless monologue and prevenient counsel, an invisible mansion of all moods, musings and mysteries, an infinite resort of disappointments and discoveries, a whole kingdom where each of us reigns reclusively alone, questioning what we will, commanding what we can, a hidden hermitage where we may study out the troubled book of what we have done and yet may do, an introcosm that is more myself than anything I can find in a mirror. This is consciousness that is myself of selves, that is everything and yet nothing at all. What is it? Where did it come from, and why?" All interesting questions which we'll attempt to answer, but some things are just a mystery. So now we have a man who is conscious of himself, his own actions, his own thoughts, and he can have visions, make plans, remember things, all those things. Then next stage really is the coming of what we might call enlightenment, that is, under knowing and being able to live what one really is, knowing one's true nature. And so, though a man is a man as far as other people is concerned, but not for himself. For himself, he is the centre of all he sees around him, and all of his senses, sight, vision, smell, taste, touch, are all that he knows of the world. As far as he is concerned, that is what the world consists of, and nothing which he sees, understands, which is the same as silence, nothing. And many people search for this and find gurus or teachers who they hope will help them find this, their true nature, enlightenment. the last stage of that is for the individual to realize that there is only one. There is only himself. He is the center of all of it, and he is nothing and he is everything, contained within the nothing. Next thing hasn't happened yet. That's the end of the universe, and we're not quite sure how that will happen, whether all the matter of the universe will get just so far apart that it no longer has any interaction with anything else, or possibly the expansion of the universe will reverse and all of it will come back to the opposite of a Big Bang, and then there is nothing again. So that's really the whole history of the universe, from its beginnings to its death. What I hope you now wish to do is to find out your own true nature, what you really are. And as I say, there are many paths to this. The one I found by chance was the teaching of a man called Douglas Harding, who sadly died a few years ago. You can find all about him, if you wish to, on a website called headless.org. So that is the whole of my story, and I hope it's you found it interesting and it prompts you to find your own story and tell it. Thank you.